What's up everybody, I am Jaspreet Singh and welcome to the Minority Mindset. Every time you go into your bank, you see or should see a sign that says your deposits are FDIC insured. Makes me so good knowing that my money is protected. But do you know how FDIC insurance really works? I mean, everyone knows the general idea. You have $100,000 in the bank and your bank fails. Oh no. And now your bank is shut down and you can't get your $100,000 back. Oh no. But all hope is not lost because you have insurance from the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation or FDIC, which insures your deposits up to $250,000. And I already made a video where I explained what happens when your bank runs out of money, and I'll link that in the description below. But in this video, I want to go over how the FDIC really works and how it affects your wallet. So hit that thumbs up button, sit back and buckle up because this is going to be a bumpy ride. Your bank pays money into an insurance fund called the FDIC just in case things go south. So if your bank goes bankrupt, then the FDIC will come in and pay you back your deposits up to $250,000. According to Zero Hedge, the FDIC is holding something around $25 billion in reserves. And that sounds like a lot, but compare that to the fact that banks are holding somewhere between $5 and $10 trillion of your cash. So the safety net, the FDIC, the insurance which is supposed to protect you, doesn't have enough money to cover a major banking loss. Like if 1% of bank assets were to be wiped out, then the FDIC would run out of money. But don't forget about the F in FDIC. What the F? It's the F. Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which means the FDIC can get help from the federal government. If you read a FDIC sign, it will tell you that the FDIC is protected by the full faith and credit of the United States government. As a licensed attorney, let me translate this legal talk. It's kind of like when your 16-year-old kid wants a credit card and their credit card company wants you, the responsible adult, to be a co-signer. And so now, if your kid goes out and spends too much money on Fortnite in-game purchases and can't make their credit card payments, well, then the credit card company is gonna come to you, the responsible adult, to make the payments. In this case, the FDIC is the 16-year-old kid and the government is supposed to be the responsible adult. But you still end up being the co-signer, and you'll see what I mean in just a minute. So if your bank makes a whole bunch of very risky loans, because more risky means higher interest rates, and higher interest rates generally mean more profits, and things take a turn for the worst where people are not able to make their loan payments and your bank has to shut down, and now the FDIC comes in and pays back depositors their deposits, but they don't have enough money. That's when the FDIC will call up mommy and daddy, aka the government, to pay the bill. So the FDIC says, "Hi government, I want to take action on this full faith and credit clause. This way I can pay back the depositors the money that we owe them." And that's when the government says, "No problem, my irresponsible child. Just let me know how much money you need and I'll write you a check." Except there's just one little problem with this. The government doesn't have any money. Remember, the government gets their money from taxpayers with tax dollars, and the tax revenue isn't enough to cover the government's expenses as it is, which is why you keep hearing about the government budget deficit and the government debt crisis. So when the government needs more money, they generally do one of two things. They either raise your taxes or they borrow this money from somewhere else. And who is that somewhere or someone else? Well, the government can borrow money by selling bonds to people, the government can borrow money from other countries, or the government can borrow money from their favorite financier, the Federal Reserve Bank or the Fed. So your bank runs out of money and they shut down and they need help covering their deposits. So your bank calls up the FDIC. And if the FDIC doesn't have enough money to pay back the bank's deposits, then the FDIC will call up the government. But the government doesn't have any money either, so then the government calls up the Fed. But there's just one small problem with this. The Fed doesn't have any money either, and so this keeps going. And you thought the banking system was simple. Here's what you need to understand about the Federal Reserve Bank. It's not federal because it's an independent organization. It's not a reserve because they don't hold any reserves. And it's not a bank because you can't go there and make deposits. So if the Fed doesn't have any money or reserves, how can they make loans to the United States government? Well, the Fed can do that because the Fed has the power to print money. If the government goes to the Fed and says, hey Fed, what's going on? Can you print us a couple $100 billion so we can take care of this FDIC stuff? The Fed will say, sure, no problem. And then the Federal Reserve will print a couple $100 billion and give it to the government. And then the government will give this money to the FDIC so the FDIC can pay out your deposits. Now, you got your money back and things feel back to normal for a little while, but this is where things get even more interesting. Have you ever heard that saying that there's no such thing as a free lunch? Well, you have to pay for this lunch 2 times. 2 times! When the Fed loans money to the government, then the government has to pay this loan back plus interest, just like any other loan. And remember, the United States government gets their money to fund everything with tax dollars. So when money has to be used to pay back these loans, that's money that cannot be used to pay for things like education or healthcare or whatever. And that often means that the government will need more money from tax dollars to make up for this loss. And the second cost is a hidden cost called inflation. Do you remember supply and demand from your economics class? When there's a high supply of something, then the value of it is low. But if there's a very limited supply of something, then the value of it goes up. Like if there's a very limited supply of water, then the value of water goes through the roof. Well, when there's more cash and more dollars in circulation and floating around, that makes the value of each individual dollar go down, which makes the value of your savings go down, and it makes the value of your current salary go down, and this makes the price of things go up because you need more dollars to equal the value of your product as it was before. And that's why you need about $400 today in 2019 to have the same buying power that $100 had in 1978. This concept is known as inflation. So if your bank runs out of money and shuts down, your bank will call up the FDIC, and then the FDIC will call up the government, and then the government will call up the Federal Reserve Bank, and then the bank will print money and fund the government, and then the government will pay this money to the FDIC, and then the FDIC will pay this money back to depositors, and then you will have to pay for this whole thing to happen through tax dollars and inflation. And this is why I keep talking about the importance of investing on our channel. When you invest your money in tangible assets like real estate or in businesses, now you're taking your money out of the bank, but you're also protecting yourself from inflation, and you are creating income streams, and you also get tax breaks too, which is great. And I'll even link some videos in the description below so you can learn more about investing. And that's probably why they say that the people who never learn the rules of money will always be ruled by money. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button and share it with one friend so you can help spread the word. Don't miss any new videos on entrepreneurship, business, and money every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So hit the subscribe button and the notification bell below. That way you actually find out when the new videos are released. And as always, keep hustling.